we have with us Mr. Gabriel Okelwo, who is the country director of BudgIT's in Nigeria. It's so good to see you this morning, Gabe.
Thank you very much, Malfoy.
Well, this is what we've seen. I mean, I think a number of states who quickly got wind of that report as soon as you launched it. The papers, the dailies the next day had their names on it. Enugu State, most viable, without the IGR, I'm sorry, without the fact that they can stand on their own. So the states who have done well are very proud of themselves, and they are, you know, right now taking, what I say, adding it as a badge of honor. Apart from those states who have reacted very positively because the review for them has been positive, the states that have not done so well, have you heard from them as well?
Well, the way it is, you know that this is an assessment, and the noise or the celebration will always start from the states that have done well. For the states that our report have shown that have not done well, usually you will not hear from them in the first few days, because they will be going back to their books to reconfirm our position, our assessment of their fiscal health, and then it is after then, if they feel there is a need to reach out, that they will then reach out. But interestingly, I've had one state that have reached out to say, okay, we accept this report, you know, and we would like you to work with us hand in hand and point us to what other states are doing that we also need to begin to do, so that our results the next time can improve. And honestly, that is one of the objectives.
That's the result you want.
Exactly.
That's what BudgIT wanted all along.
Exactly.
That states should do well. And I know that it took a long time for you to get to where you are. I mean, it's amazing that you're now in the 10th year of this review. It's now a decade since you started. Initially, the call was for states to even publish their budget.
Yes.
So we've come a long way from there. States are now publishing their budgets, and we're now able to see what it is that they're spending their money on, how they stand fiscally. And this is where we currently are. So over the last 10 years, what would you say you've noticed as the trends?
All right. So interestingly, you know, the report this year, chronicling the 10th year, not so one is this year making the 10th edition.
Indeed.
But we also then make our focus this year to be on 10 years analysis, to be able to see how have we moved, or how has the state performed in the last 10 years. And one thing that is glaring for everyone to see is the surge, right, in revenue, surge in almost all the states have had significant increase in terms of revenue from where they were 10 years ago to where they are now. We have also seen, you know, a significant move in terms of how they now prioritize capital expenditure. However, the deeper look will then show you some very insightful points, which is over the last 2 years, revenue has increased. Federally distributed revenue, what we call FAP, has increased significantly. So we have also seen capital expenditure, you know, allocation to that increase in most of the states. And the question will be, what is driving that? Is it fiscal discipline, or is it just a chance of more money being available, right? And that is what now...
I'm ready to hazard a guess, if you ask me. More money being available.
More money being available. Meanwhile, the key drivers should not be just more money being available. It should actually be fiscal discipline. And that is where you now see what is playing out in which state is coming top, which state is backing down. So when you take a state like Anambra, for example, you will see Anambra consistently over the years. Anambra has always surpassed, put more in capital expenditure than they spend in operating expenses, right? And then when you look at states like Enugu in this instance, where they were able to grow their internally generated revenue by over almost 300%, right? Or over 300%. That is what we want to see. A situation where states are spending what is within their control, which is their own internally generated revenue. Yes, our fact is part of our life as a nation, but we hope to see, or we are always looking out for, what are the states doing? FARC is not totally within the control of the states.
And I noticed something when I started looking at your report. I noticed that you had Index A, and then you had, is it Index A1?
Index A1, B,
so,
C, D, yeah.
Indeed. So A is for those who can be independent, so to speak.
Using their internally generated revenue, yes.
A1 is for those who have grown significantly.
Year on year. How have you grown your internally generated revenue?
And interestingly, even though Enugu State topped, Index A.
Index A1.
Yeah. Is it A1?
Index A and Index A1, yes.
Oh, I thought it was Bielsa I saw topping it in A1.
Well, so
okay, this is it.
if you look at A1, you will see Enugu State topping that rank here. And what is accounting for Enugu State here is the ability to be able to significantly increase their internally generated revenue, which is good, right? Because we are saying, how much can you cover in your operating expenses using your internally generated revenue, the revenue that is within your control?
If our producers can they quickly put up Index A? Because I want to show that, it would seem that the states that are top 5 in A1 are not necessarily the same states that are top 5 in A.
So
I'm hoping that they can get that difference.
I think
clearly. But just to point that out, I mean, you have all of these indexes, and according to what it is that you rate. And for instance, now I'm seeing that even Benue. Okay, well, Benue is at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. It's at the top 5. It's at the bottom 5. So when we go back to Index A1, looking at states being able to use their internally generated revenue to cover their operating expenses, you will see Lagos coming out there, right? What we expect,
and Lagos is not here.
Lagos is not here, right? Because now this is looking at how well have you grown your IGR and how much of that are you using for your internally generated revenue. Then we know that Lagos has that capacity to generate revenue. I mean, Lagos alone will account for over 10% of the total revenue of the federation, and then as it is, 17 trillion revenue, combined revenue of all the 35 states that we assessed this year. Lagos alone got about 2 trillion out of that. So the rest of the states will share, the remaining 15 million, right? 15 trillion. And but when you look at Index A, Lagos is second there because they still have significant amounts of internally generated revenue that can cover significant amounts of their operating expenses.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, this assessment, I want to imagine that the Nigeria Governors Forum will be very interested in this because the idea behind setting up the Nigeria Governors Forum was for peer review.
Exactly.
And these are the kinds of things that actually help them assess amongst themselves how they're faring and how to get better, so to speak. You have since said that, is it because more money was available or is it because of some fiscal discipline? We have since answered that question. It was because more money was available, but especially since the removal of fuel subsidy. But if you speak to the states, they will also tell you that, yes, fuel subsidy was taken away, but when you look at the fact that, when you convert what it is that is currently coming in to USD nominal terms, they will still tell you that it will seem that there is a shortfall. Did you have to do such an analysis when you undertook this, or you simply looked at what was coming in Naira terms? Well,
we look at the nominal terms in terms of Naira, right? Because already what we are seeing, there is an effect of inflation on it already. So if we take it back to, subjecting it to maybe USD dollar term, it's just going to crash the figures further, and then it will make it look as if we are not making any progress at all, right? What we can see here now is that significant money or revenue is available at the disposal of the state. And I recall that sometimes earlier in this administrations, when citizens were aggrieved and they were like raising concern to the federal government was quick to shout to say, go back to your states, there is more money in their hands. And the interesting thing about this year's review, the way we do it, this 2025 report, but 2025 report actually look at the books of 2024. Right now, 2024 had looked at the books of 2023 when most of this new administration came into power. 2023, you could not hold them totally responsible because we could say the year was already outspent before they came into power. But 2024 now is a clean an opportunity to assess the performance of any sitting governor right now, because 2024 was a year that they planned and they executed themselves. So they cannot push the blame on any predecessor or any past government, right? And that's the interesting thing we are seeing here. And then when we go back to the conversation around, is it more money or is it what they are doing better? States like Lagos, for example, has been able to, over the years, maintain its position as being able to generate revenue in terms of tax, in terms of sales, in terms of non-tax revenue. They are doing that, right? Which will now put a responsibility on states like Enugu that have shown us this year, right, that something happened significantly. Non-tax revenue increase is a major driver of that growth that we saw. Right? So what we are going to be looking at next year is how do they maintain this? And I believe that this should be an opportunity for the governments across all the states to go back and see, for those that have done well, what did we actually do that got us here? Right? So that we can maintain it. Because sometimes from the work that we do, sometimes we just see these things a lot of times as a game of chance. You know, sometimes, you know, it just happened. It just happened. You just realize that you met yourself here. But I think a deeper insight can put sustainability into it. Have you ever been constrained as to when to announce this? Because I can only imagine how the governor of Anambra State must feel right now. He is a week away from elections. And this news is coming right on the heels of, you know, when I say just before the elections. I mean, it would seem that, I don't want to say endorsements, but campaign materials don't get any louder than this. You know, I told the Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning in Anambra State to say, celebrate your being in the first this year. But I need to point you to something that happened that changed that narrative. Over the last 5 years or more, Rivers State has always been on the top of the table. Now, unfortunately, this year, we were not able to access Rivers State for reasons known to all of us as such. When we were compiling and completing the compilation of data and validating data, Rivers State was still in that state of emergency that was declared. So Rivers State was off the table, right? And that I can say, gave Anambra a significant opportunity, right, to be on the top of the table, not because of anything to give an endorsement to any political party. Our work and our analysis is totally void of that, right? And I told the commissioner to say next year is going to be a test of this celebration, right? If you can maintain being at the top, because our assumption would have been, if we had accessed Rivers State would have possibly been the first, and then there would have been a tussle of second place between Lagos and Anambra, right? But by and large, any state that is in the top 5, we are comfortable to say that they are doing something well that they need to keep doing. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you just mentioned Rivers, because indeed your report did highlight the fact that normally you would assess 36 states. Do you assess the FCT as well? Well, no. We have never assessed FCT in the last 10 years that we have been doing this. Is there a reason for that? Well, I mean, the reason is not far-fetched. The data that we use, the audited financial statements, the budget, and all of that, for FCT has been largely unavailable. It's difficult to find. But this is part of the mandate. I mean, a decade of doing this report has just ended. We are starting a new one, and one of the things we are planning to do for the 11th edition is now to go back to the drawing board and even look at our methodology again, and the amounts of weight that we give to each of our 5 indexes, right? Because now there are more revenues available. We need to look at that weight again. So one of the things we are going to be doing early next year is putting a workshop together with think tanks, experts, both from government, the Nigerian Governors Forum, you know, to look at the methodology and particularly look at how can we, you know, also add FCT to this analysis, because FCT is a subnational and indeed, it should be added to, it is a subnational, yes. and its budget is appropriated by the National Assembly. So the budget should be available. It should be transparently available. It's a little shocking that you say that it's nowhere to be found. Up to now, we do not have that access like we do to other 36 states for FCT, but it's something that we are committed to going after in the coming year.
you want to quickly run through some recommendations for us?
Exactly. The recommendations are clear, in terms of, and we say this because the first of it will always be on revenue, because in the first place, you cannot spend what you don't have.
Indeed.
And if you are going to make the life of the people that you are serving better, you need to be able to get more, right? And getting more does not necessarily mean taxing them more. It might just be plugging loopholes and putting an efficient system in place to be able to acquire more. So our first recommendation is for the digitalization of revenue collection system, right? A lot of states have done this. There are still states in this Nigeria today that are still have not embraced the capacity and all of the advantages that technology have. We are still telling them you need to go back. There is no going back on that. And then tax intelligence to enumerate tax liabilities and entity is also one. So we have a lot of high net worth individual in all of these states that are somehow have been able to perfect invading, tax and not remitting what they should remit. And then TSA will still be on the table. Right, the treasury single treasury account is something that every state needs to embrace. For a situation where states still run multiple accounts, levies are going to different accounts, and you are not able to aggregate them together, it will just be undermining the effort of the government, And I mean, a lot of recommendations are there in the report. But one thing that I will pull out from what the Deputy Governor of the CBN and our keynote speaker, Mr. Taiwo Yedili, said is that it is not increasing inflow that will improve the fiscal health of the states. It is fiscal discipline that will do that.
And we look forward to how they do that, especially as the tax laws are set to kick off next year. I wonder how that is going to, affect the revenues of states. We certainly will be looking. I don't know are you doing any projections in that regard? How this harmonization of all our tax laws, is it an assignment that budget will be looking to undertake?
Definitely something that we are going to do. And one thing that we didn't mention in this year's analysis is, you will realize that if you go into the report, you will see that debt stock didn't surge as it will usually surge year on year. And that is because there are more revenue, there are more money in the system, so much so that states are not looking to borrow, right? Which is a good thing, right? Even though a lot of these states also still have bandwidth to borrow more. But where more revenue is available, let us use that for the development of the states rather than plunging the state into a long-term, debt that even generations to come will still be paying.
Well, great work that Budget has done over the last 10 years. We have to thank you for breaking it down for us. And at least this has brought this to the awareness of our viewers. In case you're interested in that report, you can find it on Budget's website. It is budget.com.
Yeah, budget.org.
Budget.org.
Yeah. Or you can just go to statesofstates.budget.org.
Okay, you have that statesofstates.budget.org. Let's not have an situation here.
Yeah.
And Gabriel, we also understand that, I say, rumor has it that this is the end of your tour at Budget.
Well,
well, we have to thank you so much for the work that you have been doing there, and we wish you all the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.